Beloved, if you are here because you feel that you've been cycling around the old healing patterns for many years, doing shadow work, inner child work, trauma work, energy work, quantum healing work, and all this work, and you are feeling exhausted, emotionally drained, and identifying still with the pain, I want you to know that there is nothing wrong with you and that this is your path now to make a transition from cycling to soul knowing and embodying the joy, excitement, and bliss that you are here to bring and embody and live in this life. In this video, I'm going to be going deep into the real reason why we keep cycling, why we feel trapped, and how exactly we're going to shift ourselves out of this mindset, belief system, and cycle, that you will be able to live in harmony and resonance with your soul vibration and start living more excited, more juicy, more soulful, and pleasurable life. Because that is really what we've come here to bring, not to just live and be stuck in those cycles of healing patterns. We are also here to integrate that wisdom from the pain of the past and start living in the present as our soul, okay? And there are a few things that are sneaky in, healing communities, in just society in general. There's a lot out there around consumerism, capitalism, that actually feeds and gains a lot of wealth from your suffering and your pain. Unfortunately, it's everywhere. It's like looking at people who continually feel that they need to lose weight all the time, or they need to look a certain way, and start having all these surgeries, and you start escalating, spending more and more money on all of these things. And we do this in our spiritual practices as well, and we're constantly being drawn to buy and to feed into these things. And it's becoming a culture of consuming spirituality, consuming healing, and that we forget to really just look at the tools that are all within us and to listen to the soul within us that actually has the message, it has the wisdom and the truth of what is really right for us. And it's not to say that some of these things aren't going to be beneficial and supportive to us, but it's about truly listening within to know that that is right for you and true for you. Because it's very, very easy when you're being bombarded with information. If you're spending a lot of time on social media, even if you dial in on what you like to listen to and what you like to do, there is always going to be other people out there feeding their information. All these platforms now will give you adverts regardless, picking up based on what your interests are. So they will feed into that, and then it will keep on projecting those things that maybe you feel are not right in your life, or maybe they're just things that you're investigating in, trying to research and learn about, and then they'll go, oh, they obviously want to learn about this, want to maybe spend some money here. We'll keep sharing that with them until they eventually buy those things. So we can get stuck in a loop pattern from there. We can also, there are some other sneaky ways that we're just in community, and community in those spiritual perspectives and healing realms just want to keep healing you and keep helping you and supporting you. And we need to just listen in and sometimes go, you know what, I need some time to integrate. In my last video, I explained around the benefits and the importance of embodying and integrating all these energies that we have cultivated and that we have experienced, because the faster we go when we're just full pelt ahead, just going into all this energy, into all this experiences all the time, we're not giving ourselves the chance to slow down, to experience what's actually happening, read the body, read the energy, read the experience to see, is this where I need to rest, pause, integrate, or is this something for me to go and move forward towards? It's always about listening, and this is why I've always come back to the body and the importance of listening and tuning into the body, because if the body is demonstrating and experiencing physical ailments, it is because it is possibly actually overwhelmed and receiving all too much information and energy and experiences and healing and stuff like this, that it's just not having the time to go, I need to just integrate this. I need some more nourishing, more mundane things in my life. Maybe I don't need to keep being in circles and places and being with all these different healers. Maybe I just need to be with myself for a moment. Maybe I just need to, simplify my lifestyle a little bit to allow that body to catch up. Just always say, just going back to nature, spending some time in nature, some solo time on your own is going to give you that wisdom to know what's really happening. Sometimes we also have been dabbling in so many different things, and I know that this can be quite a triggering topic for people, but the reality is that capitalism is a westernized culture that is, birthed through colonization, and we are living from that. That has become a lot of the culture. And so we have lost the sense and the roots of our lineages and the way that our ancestors would have dealt with our healing and our abilities. So we feel a little bit lost, right? You might start waking up to the realization that this is going on, that's going on in my life. Oh yes, I can pick up and see that, how my parents treated me has caused this thing. And then you see all these different patterns, and then you see all these different types of healing modalities to work through that you're then going and grabbing all these different things, because there isn't that actual intimate community around you to guide you, right? We would have been in our little tribes, our little communities, our family networks that would move through the healing together, the journey together. And now we're in this time when probably, most likely, you're the only one in the family, and so you have to kind of go out on a big exploration. But it actually feels quite dispersing. So what we can do here when this is the case is to actually start to look at your roots and your ancestry and use this as a tool to simplify what you can actually do for yourself. So just doing things that would have been something your ancestors would have done. And again, could also be kind of complicated if you have a lot of ancestry. I am one of those people. I've got a lot of ancestry. I'm not just from Britain, there's a lot going on in my energy. So I need to dial in and feel what's most resonant and supportive for me within that. What's the predominant force and energy, and I'm going to go with that if that feels really good for me. There may be something that you have felt that has worked for you most prominently. So start to peel away. It doesn't matter. All these practices, they get overwhelming, they get overloaded in the system. It doesn't allow you to really integrate with what needs to be integrated. And it's just the unfortunate facts, We love all these practices, we love all these things. I'm the same, okay? My life path number is 5. I'm want to try and dip my toes in absolutely everything. But the truth is, it can actually overload a sensitive system. So if you feel that you're in that cycle, it's probably because you're still trying and doing all these different things. It's feeling fragmented. Dial down, pick something, and work through that and that alone. It's like in the morning, I used to have these overwhelms of morning practices because I wanted to meditate for as long as possible, but I wanted to do weight workouts, and I wanted to do qigong, I wanted to do yoga, and I want to go for a walk, and I want to do this and that, and there's all these other little modalities that kept wanting to come in. So I had to really look and think, what's actually going to be beneficial to me? And I don't need to actually have to do everything. I don't need all of these tools for me to be well, fit, and vibrant and healthy. And the weirdest thing is, there was a time when I was, working out even in the mornings and in the evenings after a full day of work. And bear in mind, my job was very physical as a beautician. And I was doing all my yoga, sometimes morning and evenings. I was going to several different classes a week. I wasn't very well, weirdly enough. You know, I was so overwhelmed, energy overload, exhaustion, because I was just trying to do too much. And yet my practice actually is a lot simpler now. I don't feel so much strain to be doing all these different practices. I trust that who I am as a person and as a soul, embodying my soul beautiful magnificence, that I don't need to necessarily do some of these practices to be that, because I am trusting what is needed. And there is another aspect to this that we can fall short on. And it's just as simple as oftentimes we get a little bit confused, right? We get a little bit confused and we just think that we're healing, and we haven't actually realized that we have completed it. Okay, we're still in it. We're so in it that we haven't realized that we are indeed complete with it. So we just keep feeding it and feeding it for no reason at all. Okay, if you've been doing a lot of the work and it still feels like you're just in it, you've forgotten that you actually have evolved from it, and you're just going back into it through the mind. Keep addressing it through the mind and think, oh, that's a thing that I do, that's a thing that I've done, that's a pattern that I have. So you need to actually just simply start to go, no, actually I've recognized it. I've created these new patterns. I've created this new way of experiencing my life, and I'm no longer in that. Can you do that? You might need to do some somatic practices to address that in the body, to get a feel, start to learn and feel and experience that in your body. Because maybe you're still walking around with that same sense and feeling that you have that pattern, and actually it's as simple as going, no, what is it that I've worked through? Okay, I've worked through, okay, let's do an example. So you feel like every person that you meet, you get this feeling like they're going to not like you. And you've always had this pattern of people not liking you, and so your safety is to be guarded, to be shy. And you realized that pattern. You started to work through that pattern. You started to communicate more fluently with people. You made efforts to go into communicating with people, but then it sort of starts flipping back and you start to go into these old patterns again. And you keep telling yourself, oh, like I feel like I'm quite shy. And you'll maybe tell people, oh yeah, I'm shy. Yeah, I have this pattern that I do this thing. How about changing that by going, okay, I know that there was this pattern, but now I can go into the space and I can communicate and support, because you've built those skills. You've built up the skills to communicate and talk. You know, you have proof because you have done it. You've been doing it. So can you sustain that by focusing more of your attention on the skills and the gifts that you have obtained to support yourself, rather than focusing on trying to fix it and looking at where there's error, where there's mistake, and focusing what is more working, what have you actually achieved, what you are capable of, and focus in on that, because that is where you then start becoming more of that, and then you can just leave that behind. If you're still thinking and worrying about yourself going into a room that doesn't have confidence, that doesn't have the skill set to speak to people in that room, you're still going to be coming in from that place. And that's the important thing. Now I'm going to relay and hash out something from last video, and that is that energy entanglement again. Overloading ourselves with other people's belief systems. Are we still entangling ourselves in thought forms, in belief systems, in programmings that have not been serving us? Are we also actually have such a big thought form that it's become like this energy attachment, like an entity, okay, that is kind of coming in and still manipulating you and trying to make you believe that you need to keep doing all of these things. Sometimes we need to address stuff on a much more energetic level to start to see that shift and change in our life as well. To really look at that, to see what is still playing in those fields, in that energy, and how we can start to then clear that path, clear that, so that you can then keep moving forward. You don't need to keep playing in those thought forms that you need to fix and heal. So get yourself out of those belief systems, out of that collective field of constantly needing to heal, and start remembering what is your divine truth. Working with your divine truth, working with your higher self, soul self, divine essence, true nature, whatever you want to call it. Start focusing on being that pillar of light, strengthening your field, strengthening your energy, so that these other things that create emotional dysregulation, that create disharmony and chaos in your life, they're going to have less of effect on you. So if you're constantly feeling like you need to go back into the thing, that can feel draining and depleting in itself. Whereas we can have another focus of actually expanding, growing and cultivating that which is already within us. There is always a time, there is always a need for shadow work, for healing and things like this. But sometimes we are actually overly focused on that. We are actually also, another one is darting, trying to get ahead. You use spirituality as a race to the top for enlightenment, to be so conscious. I know that that's going to sound, again, quite triggering, but the truth is sometimes we feel like we need to get ahead. We need to be more than what we are, constantly looking for more than what we are. We forgot what we've already cultivated. We forgot what we already are. We forgot. And we just need to remember that, be present with our magnificence and brilliance, with those parts of ourselves. And then we're not feeding into those narratives of not enoughness, not quite there, not quite enlightened enough, not quite conscious enough or awake enough. I have to keep going back and doing this and doing that. And then you just feel your energy just going down, down, down. And you feel yourself, it's like a spiral, and it creates this like vortex of energy where you can't get out of. You're trying to get up, you're trying to get out into that energy, but then it keeps pulling you down because there is just that thought and experience of, but this is how I'm going to get up here, is by being down here. Whereas, again, referencing back to my last video, because of the toroidal field, when we become more coherent with our divine nature, with earth, with cosmos, centering ourselves within the life force of our eternal being, we are actually able to stabilize in that frequency, which then means when these other things start coming up, we react to them differently, we respond to them differently. We can then become a different response towards a resurfacing of a traumatic experience, to a resurfacing of a trigger with a friend or family member. That becomes different, and we want to get to that point where it becomes different, and we're not going back into the spiral and then going to need to go back deep, deep, deep into the work. Because once we've done that deep work, we're getting to here. I'm not talking about yourself. If you feel like you still feel like you need to be in those trenches because you haven't made any steps ahead, that's okay. But if you feel like you've been spending years and years and years in these cycles and patterns, it's because sometimes we victimize ourselves, thinking that we need to keep learning and working on ourselves and exploring all of that, that we haven't come to a part of our realization where we've done enough. We've done enough. And there is a different way to respond and experience those things. There is a different way. We don't need to keep doing harsh processes. We can process it from a much higher perspective, because you have that higher perspective awareness that is integrated through the body, that is integrated through the earth, and it is flowing through your central channel. That awareness is there, it is steady, it is coherent with your divine nature, with your authentic soul expression. So if that is something that you want to live and experience and be more of, start feeling and sensing it, start recognizing it, start looking and playing the game of recognizing your magnificence, recognizing that, and focusing in on that vibrational resonance. So let's just do a little practice together right now. I want you to close your eyes if that feels good for you, or take a look out a window, or looking at a plant, like maybe gaze into something like a crystal or a plant if that feels good as well. Something that is just going to hold this beautiful magnetic energy with you. And I want you to just be breathing in and breathing out, and just imagine that you are a ball of energy. And you're breathing in and breathing out, and just feeling yourself as this ball of energy. Just notice your colors, your vibrations, and your energy. Breathing into your heart, breathing into your belly. Let your belly expand. So it's coming out laterally, but it's also expanding up and below, all around you, front and back. Big ball of energy. And the more you breathe, just start to focus in and just notice that awe and wonder, starting to experience yourself as this beautiful ball of light, this magnificent, glittering, crystalline vibration. Just feel it, sense it, expanding, growing, pulsing. The more you gaze into it, the more you feel its magnificence, its wonder. Start to feel that gratitude. Start to feel what you're grateful for about your brilliance, about your magnetism, your lightness right now. And watch it grow and expand, the ball of light that is you. Just letting that grow, letting it expand. And another experiment you can do after this is just putting a candle on and gazing into a light, physical light, while you do this. Breathing with the light, expanding the vibration, the energy, and the life force that is you. How magnificent you are, how brave you are, how kind you are, loving, joyful, how skilled you are, how beautiful you are. All those words, let them pour into your beautiful ball of light. Let it grow, let it expand, let it evolve and grow. And then I want you to open your eyes and just stay in this ball of light. That is you, this is your energy. Your physical body is a part of that light. It is around you, it's growing, it's expanding. And just see that expansion. And just feel that is what you can do going forward. Just let that expand, let it expand. And it will shift and it will shape your physical anatomy, your body, your being. And it will shape your life and the things in your life. When you're at that realization, just see and play with that realization, that perspective. Just see what happens from that. Now, my loves, if you want to play and practice even more with different practices that allow you to shine more in your light, but also slowing you down, slowing it all down, to nourish it, to embody it, to experience it so viscerally in your life, so you can start living from that place, as opposed to being in this cycle of healing and deep soul shadow work. I invite you to look at the Soul Codes guide that I'm gonna link below. It's a beautiful soul expression and really gets us to be more playful and joyful with our life. And I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please comment below and let me know how you get on. I'd love to hear your perspective and your views.